Hi guys, thank you for being here. This tutorial is creating first layers in a high quality sketchbook. Now this over here is a Strathmore mixed media art journal and it's 100% cotton. It can handle a ton of layers. And one of the really important things to me is that it has a Smythe sewn binding, which is super durable. Now let me just illustrate why this is important. So this is the exact same journal, but I filled up all the pages, and as you can see, the spine has expanded. So this is my new journal and this is my used journal. And once I fill up the pages, it's going to expand. And with this type of a binding, the pages are not going to fall out. So that's super important to me. Now, I've never had an issue with this art journal falling apart, but that does tend to happen, especially with mixed media, if you're going to repurpose a book. And I've had that happen to me, and I just try to work with it. This journal over here probably costs about $30 to $35, and it's well worth it to me. Now, with this type of paper, I can start off with very watered down paints like I do on Bristol paper, or I can go right away with thick paints and collage like I do in my cheap notebook. And because it's 100% cotton, the paints are going to sink into the page. Unlike both the Bristol paper and the cheapy notebook. So I'm going to get a different effect on this type of a surface. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So this over here is my mixed media Strathmore art journal. So it's the exact same as this. And as you can see, the image looks very velvety, I guess. It doesn't have that raw quality to it like the other two surfaces because the paints just tend to sink into the page. So to compare, this is my cheap notebook, and see how it just has a very kind of an unfinished look to it. And this is my Bristol paper. So when I compare, say, this and this to that over there, I see a difference. I mean, I have a similar style, but the finish is different to me. I'm not sure what it's like to the viewer who's, you know, observing it, but just from my perspective, it is different. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do a simple sketch here, and I'm still going to bring that level of playfulness and curiosity and no judgment, beginner's mind to this first layer as I would to, like, when I do the abstract you know, backgrounds, like how I start off with my circles and stuff. So I'm gonna bring that same energy and that same perspective. I'm not going to be very tight with this drawing, and as you can see, I'm holding my pencil up here, so I want it to be very loose. And just gonna kind of do some quick sketches here because, I mean, who knows, you know, how much of this is gonna be retained, and this is just to get something on the page that I can work with. And I could do the abstract background like I do with my other two surfaces. I can do the same thing on this, but I just prefer not to. I just want to go right in and do my figures because I just want to illustrate that even when you do start off with, say, you know, whatever you're painting, like you could be painting a bird or a butterfly or flowers or a landscape or whatever. So it doesn't have to be figures, but I'm still trying to bring that very abstract, loosey-goosey kind of perspective, even in this sketch. So I just, you know, right off the bat, I I want there to be drips, and I want there to be splatters. And sometimes they happen organically, and sometimes I make them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some paints, and normally I lay out some paints on my palette and I've figured out a color scheme, but I think for this I'm just going to kind of, you know, see what I feel intuitively. So I'm just going to get some color on here. Like whether it shows up in my second layer or my third layer, I'm really not concerned with that because I'm just kind of getting some stuff down on the page. And I'm not going to use my heating tool. You can use a heating tool. And I do sometimes, but I also find that a heating tool is going to flatten out my paints. And I'd really want them to remain vibrant, and I don't want them flattened out, so I'm gonna let it dry naturally. So I think what I'm gonna do is just lay some collage down, and I really absolutely love this handmade tie paper. So I am gonna put some of it on the page. I can't tell you how much I absolutely love this paper. I just love everything about it. It's so beautiful. So I'm just going to use my Mod Podge and put it on the page. So it may seem difficult to retain a very playful feeling to a figure, and I know it was for me because I guess, you know, a figure is just more kind of serious, you know, like it was difficult in the beginning for me to make a blue face, or, you know, to make red eyes, for instance, because, you know, a figure is just, it has kind of a gravitas to it, you know, as opposed to, say, a cat, you know, or a flower. So I had to learn how to really let go and, you know, make blue faces and make red eyes, and, you know, do kind of just really push color in a different way, and texture, and just all of those things. And so to approach the figure in an abstract way, that took some learning for me to do and practice. And because it's in my sketchbook, it's kind of like there's a sense of freedom. I'm sorry, not my sketchbook, my art journal. There's a sense of freedom that comes from working in an art journal as opposed to canvas. And then when I do get on canvas, then I can carry that sense of freedom onto that surface as well. But it's just practice, and, you know, I'm putting this on YouTube, but generally, like if I was working in my art journal, it's a private thing. So until you are confident about, you know, painting things different colors, like a green face or blue hair or whatever, then, you know, you can always keep it private, you know. So that's always something to keep in mind. But I've been doing this for a really long time now, but I did have a problem with it. I did have to work my way into doing all sorts of, you know, different things. So I think I'm gonna keep the figures like a flesh tone for this, but I might want to make the hair like blue, or I'm not sure. But what I'm going to do right away is I am going to add some of this red on the background here. And I think what I'm going to do is just turn this around. And that helps me look at it in a more abstract way, rather than focusing on the figures. So this is all still my first layer. And the paints just sink into the page. They really do. So I love working on all of these different surfaces. Just each surface has so many unique qualities. And if we learn what those qualities are and then learn how to work with them and use it to our advantage, it's really going to help when you do paint on these different surfaces. So it's important to know how our surfaces react, what their qualities are. Like, I've used children's cardboard books to turn them into my art journals, and I'm going to do a tutorial on that, because children's cardboard books make the absolute best art journal, because first of all, they're cardboard, so they're going to take a ton of media. I mean, you can put like 100 layers on there and it's going to hold. The second thing is they are dirt cheap, because if you go to the thrift store, you're going to be able to find them in any size you want, you know, different thickness, and you can just buy them at a thrift store and repurpose them. So it's like a win-win. But what I do with those is I work on them differently as well, which is why I'll make a tutorial about it. So it's important that we know how our surfaces are going to react to the paint or the media that we put on top of it. And I think I'm going to add a little more collage here just to build up my page. But as you can see, it's really, you know, it's abstract, but you know, it's taking form, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I think I'm just gonna put that for some interest over there. And I try to repeat things at least 3 times. I'm not sure if that would work there, but maybe over there. And I think I'm gonna put that there. So even if all of this gets covered up, eventually it doesn't matter, because it's still gonna add to my page. And I do try to let my collage show through even a little bit of it. I mean, sometimes it has to completely get covered up, but I make an effort to let it show through if possible, if it's going to work with the image. Okay. And I really love handmade paper. I just get so obsessed with finding handmade papers that really speak to me. Like, they just come in such gorgeous patterns and colors and textures. So now what I want to do is I want to bring in some blue paint, I think, because I need like an ultramarine here. I have the blue of the Stabilo, but I just want to bring in some blue paint here because the page is very hot. So I'm just gonna kind of make some lines here. So one of the things that the most important thing that I hope I've been able to convey in this, I guess, you know, series, it's not really a series, but in all of these videos where I talk about creating first layers, is that no matter how I approach my page with the image, you know, whether I'm doing an abstract or whether I'm doing a figure, or whatever surface I'm using or whatever art supplies I'm using, I still try to keep that very playful vibe going. It's really important to me, especially in the first 1 or 2 layers, because these first layers set the tone for the rest of the painting. And if I'm so obsessed and, you know, everything's so tight and controlled and structured, and I'm striving for this has to look this way, and, you know, this can happen and this can't happen and this has to happen or whatever, then it's going to affect my subsequent layers, and then I'm going to end up with something that's like very, very tight and controlled, and it has no flow to it. And I speak from experience because I cringe when I look at my work from, say, you know, 15 years ago, because it was so tight and I really just don't like it at all. But I still have to appreciate that I had to go through that to get to where I am now. And I'm far from being as loose as I want to be. So it's just a learning process, but I really make an effort to keep everything kind of very loose. And I hope I've been able to convey that in my videos. So now what I'm going to do is just pull out this pink again and just start randomly dropping it, just because I want a little bit of depth and variation in the background here. And I'm going to pull some of that into the hair just for fun, and some of it into her neck here. So now I'm just playing around. I'm just kind of making some marks, and I just want to rough it up a little bit. What I'm going to do is let this completely dry, and then I will come in and work on my subsequent layers. But for the purposes of this video, this is my first layer on on my Strathmore mixed media art journal. So I just wanted to show you how this surface is different than the previous 2 videos, the surfaces that I used on for those videos. So thank you so much for watching till the end, and I hope this has been helpful in some way, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.